The Gracious Hopes Live podcast, once again, is here to bring you the very best of all that is going on in the contemporary world in which we live. Gracious Hopes Live podcast is a contemporary platform that brings you all that has to do with all of the confrontation that is the morale of things that happen in the Christian's life every day. We use this platform to discuss social, cultural issues, and even political issues from the biblical perspective. My name is Alexander Red of the Gracious Hope Bible Fellowship, and always I'm here along with my co-host, Reverend Suah Deddeh. We know that there's a missing puzzle of Liberian justice system. The Liberian justice system has a missing puzzle. And what do I mean by that? Liberia is a nation established on the principle of liberty, but it is struggling with the concept of dispensing justice against gross violators of human rights. Recent and past unresolved mysterious deaths and delayed responses by governing authorities to avenge justice are undermining universal values such as trust, peace, and stability. While previous and present governing authorities are responsible for a fragile justice system, what are the concerning factors that might help to improve the judiciary system of governance? And this is what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at ways and means in which we all can contribute to have a good a justice system that dispenses justice for all, not just for the few. We know in recent times we have been carrying on the series on ritualistic killings as well as other mysterious deaths that have been happening in the homes of citizens. In last week's program, we had Ambassador Nathaniel Barnes here talking about how we Liberians, first of all, we need some sort of identity of patriotism that is coming together. And what makes a nation great is not just the guns and all the weapons and resources that you have alone. It is a spirit of that nation. And that spirit comes with a united spirit. And that's why we have greater countries like the United States. It is the spirit of the American people to do all they can in our influence, their power, and abilities to live in a world that is of unity. Even though there are divisions politically, they differ on other social and economical issues, but at the end of the day, or in the final analysis, the country unites in a national identity. And so, Liberia, as a country, we have been struggling with our justice system, looking at the mysterious disappearance of people, and it has been a concern for safety and security. And so, today we'll be looking at ways and means in which we can um, uh, propose, or would I say, what means a way in which we can do our part as citizens of Liberia. And my co-host, Reverend Suah Deddeh, will be right back. He's having some technical difficulties. But before we get back to my co-host here so we can begin the program, we have a special guest on this program today who is also concerned, along with his organization in the United States, President Joe S. Mason. He is the head of the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, ALJA. And he will be letting you know that his organization's call to dismiss the police chief, uh, Patrick Sadu, is in light of all that is going on in the country, the mysterious deaths, the lack of security or safety, and the concern or the alarming concern of the populace. And so he will be featuring today on his program talking about the statement from his organization and this highlights of his statement, as well as providing some insights about how the judiciary system of government can be um, can be effective in dispensing justice. And so, without much ado, My co-host, Reverend Suah as Deddeh, is back here. Reverend Deddeh, today we will be focusing on why do we always believe or profess to say we are a nation based or established on the principle of liberty, which of course is freedom for all, yet we still struggle to dispense the biblical idea, that's godly idea of justice, because we all cried out for fairness all the time. And justice is meant for us to have equal rights under the law. Why is it that we are so struggling with that in our country, Reverend Dede?
Well, bless God. I'm glad to be back. This is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. My internet is kind of facing in and out. I don't know why the signal looks strong from my end, but in any case, we're going to do God's business today. That the question is a soul session, and one reason why I think that situation suffices is because we pretend. Sincere love is somehow missing from our profession or confession of loving each other. Sometimes we say we love each other, but we don't love each other. Why? Because the things we do to one another, our inhumanity to one another, shows that we don't love each other. If we don't love one another, Alex, the next thing that will come will be injustice, will be hatred, will be bitterness,
Mhm.
will be malice, and all those vices that are accompanying injustice will suffice. So this is what we are. This is a perennial problem we have in our country, and we gotta face it. That's who we are. We have some people who are sincerely bent on doing what is right, and some people don't care. And they feel that they can do anything they want to do, and nothing would happen to them. And that's why we have the situation we have. But if the government and those who are in authority will put their feet on the ground and not only looking at others but themselves as well to
Mhm.
follow justice, to be fair to one another, then we will see where our country is going. But for now, we are, I mean, pretending. Most of us are pretending, brother. Most of us are pretending.
Yes, pretending in a way. And we know to pretend is to do something that is opposite of genuineness, and that is of being authentic. And we don't need to pretend. We don't need to cover up. We don't need to say uh, the the order, say something about what is going on in another way. In what I'm trying to say is that we know that injustice exists in our country, and we are not just saying this government. Injustice has been pervading the Liberian political arena, as well as its social and cultural and economic settings for years. Or may I say, since the country was founded. So it's not just one government. That's why I mentioned in my intro that past and present governing authorities are responsible for the insecurity and the lack of transparency. So we're not just blaming one government; we're blaming all those that govern this country, Liberia. And as we look at the issue or the idea of justice, it reminds us about how fair we are to other people, how we treat other people, and it goes back to the whole biblical idea of love. Love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and love others as yourself. So loving others should also transcend you because it's God love. It's not a love that you expect to reap something in return. It is a love that is given with your whole heart, just how God loves you unconditionally as a child of God. And so, because of God's common grace, His love, and His mercy, we must also be able to live out that love toward other people. And this brings to the point, Reverend Deddeh, about the killings that are going on. And we are hearing some latest development regarding the death of John Hilary Tubman, the son of former Liberian President William V.S. Tubman. It's the latest development regarding the culprits, that is, those who perpetrated the murder, or maybe I heard, if I'm not mistaken, and I stand to be correct, an individual was arrested by the police or apprehended by the police as a suspect. Did you hear anything regarding that development?
Well, the last one that I heard was when uh, the report said let me find out story quickly because it's important. We don't want to give any fake or wrong information that will be questioned. We we heard that there was a gentleman who was a culprit to the death of Hillary John Tuckman, and this person is being interrogated. And based on that, we hope that if it is true that this person is attached or linked or is an accomplice to this crime, he will come up and come out and say his involvement so that the rest of the culprit can be brought to justice. Because the thing is, when crimes happen and people are afraid, to come out to say what they saw, and that's why the police will need the public interest and the public participation in bringing culprits to justice. So if a culprit is arrested, or person of interest is arrested, and that person diverges on his or her participation or link other people to what happened, that gives the police the leeway to grab and bring into custody those others who participated in such crime. And so this person that was arrested, from the news that I gathered a week ago, uh, they stay in police custody and is being interrogated and being investigated as a person of interest linked to the death of Hillary John Tuckman. We don't know whether or not someone has been arrested uh, based on the involvement with the murder of Willie Tuckman, Willie Aratobo III. We have no information on that yet. Neither do we have any on more Elliott, whether someone was arrested that is linked to her death. So far, it's John Hillary Tuckman. So we hope the public can get involved in this situation because the police cannot solve these crimes without public participation. The police, that's where police community interaction is very key in this situation. The police cannot be an ally in this matter. They really need the public's interest and participation to bring these culprits to justice. So if you are watching Ellis and I today and you know something, let the police know. But Ellis, one thing that I think keeping people back from coming to the police is the police director's own statement threatening people who will say things or mention things that they cannot prove. And if that happens, they will come and arrest you. If that is the foundation the police wants to operate on, then people will not come out. People will be afraid to discuss this issue. And that's why after press conference and press statement was talking about, you threaten the people. And so the community police interaction will not suffice. And this is where we are.
Yes, that's where we are. And the fact here is that we must face the reality of um, the happiness on the ground, what is occurring on the ground. And what is occurring on the ground concerns or should concern each and every one of us. This is not about government bashing. This is about or opposition. This is about the facts, what is going on here. And when we see these reports, and we are not saying that the police is not investigating or the justice ministry is not looking into these matters. They are doing so. However, effectiveness and efficiency are two words that many described the justice system to be. Delay. They are investigating, and it takes time. And I understand it takes time to come up with answers. But at the same time, it doesn't stop anyone or a citizen like us to voice our concern or
Indeed.
awareness. We
Yes.
know that there's a lot of popular saying. It's a popular saying that justice delayed, justice denied. Well, in the Bible, from a biblical perspective, justice denied is not true according to the Bible. The Bible, justice delayed is not justice denied to God. Remember, God said in the book of Romans that vengeance is mine. Do not pay evil for evil. Okay, God simply saying if someone acts wicked or violate your rights, leave it up to man. Because you know why? God knows us best. He knows how to get us at our most vulnerable time and place. And because if we take justice into our hand, guess what? We will end up killing that person. And that's where you see someone murdering someone's family, and that grudge is there. That vendetta uh, grows over time, and we see all of these mysterious killings going on. But we don't know the underlying motive of these deaths. However, we voice them out because if we look back in the Bible, Exodus chapter 20, verse 19, thou shalt not kill. That is a cardinal universal law given by God. And I believe that everyone in the world should abide or abiding. Everyone is abiding by such law because killing is taking away someone's life, and taking away the sanctity of human life. It is against God's law, and that's why impel us to talk about this because. From a biblical perspective, and this platform, which is used for that, we bring awareness of things that are going wrong and things that should be right. So we are not just saying all of the facts about what's going on regarding these mysterious deaths or ritualistic killings for human sacrifice. But at the same time, we want to provide solution, some sort of ways and means where we all can grab onto our hope, and where our heart will locate ways and means in which we can have a vibrant nation or society, because we all want to be safe, we all want to be secure, we all want to have our family members live uh, in a land that is free in the sense where they can express themselves and do things that will bring about creativity and innovation.
Definitely.
And okay, so I'm glad that you talk about that because the John Hillary Tubman death was under investigation from the outset, from September, announced by the Justice Ministry. Before and after that, William Tubble the third death came about. William Tubble, yeah, the third, and he was murdered in his home. His neck was cut and he was stabbed in the forehead, and also he has some other deep wounds on his body. And there's another immigration or public official also received similar fate, Maud Elliott. And as these investigations roll on, we want to know the end result, and people are apprehensive about safety and security, and the government is constitutionally mandated to do so. And having said that, just before we bring our guests on, we'd like to remind you once again this is the Gracious Hopes live podcast on KMTV. KMTV, we are everywhere. And if you put up to the test, we beat the rest. And we are so glad that you are here today. And don't forget to share our link. Okay, share our link as much as you can with your friends, family, and relatives, so that we all can be aware to know what is going on in our society and everything that is going on in our society, whether it is mysterious deaths or whether it is ritualistic killing, extracting parts from the body. Remember that they all can have implications on everyone. You know why? Because it scares investors away to invest in the country. Now we are a country. We want to recover economically after years of war and the pandemic. We want to recover. But if all of these news going on, I mean, it's going to affect you. So don't say, "Hey, it ain't happened to my family. I'm okay. I'm living in a safe environment." No, it also affects you, and that's why we all need to pray. We all need to be steadfast in devising ways and means in which we can protect our immediate communities as well as do other things to cooperate maybe with the police, even though they say some other scary things that might scare people off by not coming out to say, hey, I have this information. But at the same time, if you love your neighbor, you love your community, if you see something, you will report that so that the governing authority can do that job better. Now, the AJA president, Association of Liberian Journalists in America's president, Mr. Joe Mason, declared that this guy, the inspector general of the police, should be sacked, should be fired. Why? He has some other list. The AJA press statement listed a myriad of inefficiency, may I say, a lot of things that the police are not doing. And so we will bring on the AJA president, Joe Mason, who will highlight some of the things that that are so
That's right.
wrong. Mr. Mason, you may want to veer on your right a little bit. There you go. So your face is show on the right a little bit because we got a split screen here.
He's
There
trying,
you
he's trying,
go.
he's trying to hide from us.
Okay, that's better. We'd like to say welcome, President Mason. Now, you have been taking a lot of flack for sending out that press statement, wanting the police director had to go. Why so? Give us some highlights. Why you think a change of command in the police structure will bring something better, or better security and safety for the Liberian people? Why you think so? Your microphone is off.
Mute, mute.
Okay, it's on. I think it's from your end. Your end. Check your mic, please.
First, you want to hide his face, then you want to hide his
There
voice. So
you
I
go.
don't know what's
Yes.
going on.
Okay. So he's having some technical difficulties, and President Joe Mason will, let us know why that press statement was. What was it all about? And he will give us a highlight. I know he had litany of wrongdoing by the police in that investigation. Not necessarily wrongdoing, but things that they're not doing right. Yeah, it's the same thing. Things that they're not doing right, and a lot of people, some people, they didn't like that. They wrote against the Aja president, the organization, uh, accusing Aja of sabotaging or saying things that are not factual. And um, and President Mason will clarify that today for us. But all in all, Reverend Deddeh, this is where we are. We want for justice to take place, and justice is a demand from God. God wants us to learn justice and put justice into practice, because why? Justice is, how would I say, it is communicable. That is, God can pass on that kind of an attribute of himself to us.
Yeah,
Okay, there are certain things that God cannot get. Only God has certain attributes, but when it comes to the attribute of justice, okay, God passed that over to us. He gave it to us in a sense where we have that inborn sense of justice. But at the same time, we tend to ignore that at times, and for selfish reasons, we um, treat other people in a way that is so inhumane, and that is part of our history, Reverend Dede.
yeah. Justice is God. God is just. God created us in His image and likeness, and He breathed in all of us, and we became living souls. That tells you that God respects us. He loves us, and we are all equal in the sight of God. And that's what God's justice comes from. In fact, in Psalm 89, verse 14 tells us, the righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Whose throne? God's throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you. So watch it. Justice, righteousness, steadfast love, and faithfulness. These four things go together. In the absence of love, justice is absent because it is based on love that justice is meted out. So say you went to the court and the judge is biased, he takes sides, you are in trouble. Justice will not be given out because why the judge already has his preconceived mind. He knows which direction he's going. So whether or not you bring all the evidence you want to prove, that judge has his own mindset and that's where he's going to go. There's a scripture in the Bible where the woman she cried for justice to the king. People came against her and she kept going back to the king over and over and over again, crying for justice. And eventually, finally, the king gave in not because he wanted to give justice, but because the woman was persistent. So for us Liberians, no matter where we are in the world, we have to be persistently persistent in making sure our call for no matter what people say, they can burn us how they want to burn us. When I'm saying us, I mean the Africans, people who are calling for justice. People will brand you. That's life. But that should not deter advocates of justice to be threatened, to be fearful, because I live it. I went there. I've been there, done that. I went with the president We stood for justice. Our lives were threatened. We went to jail, but we still stood for justice. That's what it is. So wherever we are in Liberia or all of Liberia, we owe our country that responsibility to call for justice and let our leaders know that we respect them, we love them, but they still have to listen to us when things are not going right, when things are going amok. We have the obligation as Liberians to talk to our leaders so that they know that things are not going the way they should go. And our justice is God is a just God. Now, before you come in, Ellis, if you don't make a justice to somebody when the time comes for that justice, you yourself might come to the place where you need justice and you might not get it at the time because why? You did it to somebody else and somebody is doing it to you. What comes around goes around. That's life circumstance, brother.
That's true. And let justice be done. Justice be done. The temple of justice, let justice be done to all. And there's a statue with the blindfolded individual. Justice is blinded. And like we said from the onset of the program or the program um, podcast, um, we have been struggling as a nation to treat one another fairly. And it's part of our instinct. But the bottom line is sin. Sin can cause us to be very vindictive toward other people. Sin can cause us not to be so loving. Sin can cause us to be selfish and be self-aggrandizing. And it is all about self-centeredness, me, myself, and I. It is all sin. And the opposite of those vices is what is love. And our love is the agape love, is the filial love, which is a brotherly love, the love that you can show to others in your strength, your power, and your own ability. But it might not be perfect without God's spirit behind it. We can show some other people in our society. We show love to communities and society, being nice and being kind and giving a lot of things to other people to help them make their life better. But at the same time, they are not perfect people, but again, the love that we're talking about is a love that can be seen through fairness and treating other people as you would want to be treated. So it is a pleasure once again to bring in Alja president, the Association of Liberian Journalists president, uh, President Joe S. Mason. Now, you release a press statement, and in that press statement, you call on the police director, Patrick Sidil, to be dismissed from his post for ineffectiveness. And you had a whole litany of things listed that he has not been doing. Now, can you just go over just few of those things or some of those things that make this police director or inspector general ineffective in handling the security apparatus of our country?
Let me first thank you, Dr. Red. Thank you, Reverend Deddeh, for this very important discussion. And let me preface my response by saying that we at Alja, when we considered a position to take, it is thoroughly vetted. We considered it very, very seriously, the discussion at the leadership level. So it is not done in isolation. So when we consider the security situation in the country, there were a number of things we considered. We considered the number of deaths in the country in proportion to the population. And we reached a conclusion that was very, very high. We also considered the proportion of clearance in terms of homicide, the number of homicides that have been solved in proportion to the number of deaths that were occurring. We came to the realization that it was significantly low. We also considered the fear and the trepidation that was occurring in the country as a consequence of these murders. Mind you, the country is on the verge of celebrating its bicentennial celebration in a matter of months, where we're going to be welcoming tons of strangers and tourists and business people to our country. In the midst of the ongoing fear, considering that we've had these murders now that keep piling up, and many of them are unresolved. And we consider that the guy who sits at the helm of the Liberian National Police the organization, the institution with the statutory responsibility to protect lives and property in the country is Inspector Patrick Sudu. Inspector Sudu is a public servant. Like every public servant, you're open to critique. When you're not performing at your optimum, citizens have a right, have a responsibility to call for some sort of change. And so we reached the conclusion that for this course to be reversed, because this death cannot be the norm, we cannot be having these deaths over time, and everybody keeps saying, well, nothing will come out of it, because that is the norm in Liberia now. When people die, the common refrain is that, well, nothing will happen. There's an ongoing investigation. After a few weeks, that investigation die. You hear absolutely nothing going forward. And so we said this has to change. And Inspector Sudu, nothing personal to the inspector. I don't know him personally. I believe he's someone who is a decent man who cares deeply about his country. But we believe that he is not performing at his optimum, and we call for a change in the top echelon of the Liberian National Police for the course to be reversed. And that was why we made the call we did.
Yeah, but again, what is a guarantee that if the police chief is gone, the new police chief will do better? Any guarantee, or do you think it's going to make the situation better?
Dr. Red, like I said, in every position, here in the private sector, in the public sector, when you're not performing, the goal is not to keep you there. The goal is to find someone who we believe will do a better job. We don't know if that person will, but we cannot assume that that person will not and keep it there still the same, because we want to change the trajectory. And so we believe that for that to happen, there has to be a change in the leadership.
Okay, so changing the leadership, you strongly believe will bring some sort of whole new dimension of security for the Liberian people. However, what about the justice ministry? Do you think the justice ministry is also responsible in this effort to keep the Liberian people safe?
Certainly, the Justice Ministry or the police, the Justice Minister is technically the boss of the police director. But for now, we believe that the guy who is responsible, because Inspector Sudu is the head of the Liberian National Police. He is the guy who sits at the top. He gives the command. He ensures that, because like I said, the police, at the group tax, we're protecting the lives and property of citizens in the country. And look, there's no greater responsibility. And people criticize us for calling for the Inspector General removal to reverse this code. Look, there's no greater responsibility that the government has to protect the lives and properties of everyone within the confines of the country. If that is not happening, the government is failing. That responsibility goes beyond the police director. It goes directly to the president of the country. So we're saying to the president, you have the appointing power. This fault will be your responsibility if you don't make a change. It is already a responsibility because everything begins and ends with the president. He appointed this guy. So we believe it's our patriotic duty to be able to let the president know that this is what is happening and you need to make a change now for the betterment of the country, for you to gain the confidence of your own people, because people in the country are going to bed early because they're afraid. I mean, in light of that, how do you expect to attract people to your country in their numbers if your own citizens are so afraid of the security condition in the country that they are going to bed early? They are afraid. That cannot be the norm. We cannot have these murderers running rampant because, no one can arrest them. If you're not arresting people for crimes they're committing, it gave them room to commit more crimes. So that was our call. And again, like I said, it was nothing personal. We don't know this man. He might love his country. I certainly believe he does. But we believe at this point, there needs to be a change in leadership for us to reverse this course. Otherwise, our country will be ill-served.
Yeah, and Reverend Deddeh, looking at this whole culture of impunity here, we have seen many deaths. We have seen most of them unresolved, not just the administration, even past administrations. getting from the Taylor administration through the Simon Dogie murder, and we can have a whole list. Harry Grieve under the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration and this administration. It is a pattern of a situation that is so alarming, and it is on the increase. It is done now in the open. Look at the two former presidents' sons that were killed in our homes. And so this whole culture of impunity goes back to the understanding that our concept of justice and having a competent jurisdiction is a problem. So, don't you think, Reverend Deddeh or President Mason, that we have to look at the whole judiciary branch of government, because it's a whole government by itself? We got three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary branch of government. Now, we may agree that the judiciary branch of government is operating in a fragile way, where justice is not seen as something that people can actually put that trust in, or put that trust in a particular branch of government. So what is your perspective looking at all that is going on here? Okay, whether these investigations will come to fruition with something better or not, we don't know. But looking at the pattern and looking at the judiciary branch of government, from your own experience and your own perspective, do you think that the entire judiciary branch should be reformed?
Before I even come to that, I'd like to go back to Aja's statement, because the statement made a salient point that I think we might have missed. And I'll read it, and then I can pose follow with the question with the president, and then we can discuss it within the purview of Ellison's question. And the statement states that Aja stressed that while Colonel Sedu is a political appointee, the office of the Inspector General needs to be apolitical, and professional, continuously working to maintain the integrity and independence of the Liberian Police or National Police. My question, Mr. President, and then we can discuss the whole Naya. Do you ever believe or think that a police director appointed by the president of Liberia can be apolitical in the midst of our political climate?
Maybe not apolitical in their belief, but apolitical in the conduct of their professional responsibility. I mean, we all have our partisan belief, okay? But to the extent that you allow your partisan belief to begin to affect the way you do your job, that's something completely different. And the reason we made that statement was because the Inspector General, I think you all talked about it earlier, in the midst of these reports of ritualistic killings that were taking place around the country and bodies being found all over the place, made a statement on the radio that these deaths were all fake. There were no substance to these report of ritualistic killings in the country, and he accused the opposition of masterminding these incidents to create a dark picture for the country and to make the government look bad. We felt that, and without providing any proof, if the police director has to make that kind of accusation, he has to have proof that those things are actually happening. And we said to ourselves, well, this is an opposition, the CPP, that at the moment is so dysfunctional that they cannot even agree on whether a framework document was framed and who did it. They're quibbling back and forth. I mean, the leaders themselves cannot even coexist right now. How can these people all of a sudden conceive this grand scheme of planting bodies in the street to make the government look bad? We felt that he needed to be and provide more proof. If he had those proof about opposition folks planting bodies in the street, and arrest those opposition folks, put them on trial, and find them guilty if they're guilty. But to make that kind of statement void any proof, we felt was not aligning with the responsibility and the way he ought to discharge this responsibility as neutral as he should be. Again, I agree. We're all not neutral. We have our own political orientation, but I mean, just as the Chief Justice, no one, the Chief Justice, I mean, he goes and perhaps every election he votes his choice, as is his right to. But when he's conducting his responsibility as Chief Justice, he needs to be fair, not only the Chief Justice, but all justices, the Supreme Court and justices, they need to be fair, they need to be balanced, they need to be independent, and that is what we expect of our police director.
Certainly. And it's a very good question in terms of what the perception of the justice system in our country. And Ellis is not one of who's asking this question. I've heard numerous discussions with Liberians who have asked the same question: should we overhaul the justice system? I mean, from the Supreme Court down to the lowest court in our country, should we overhaul the system? How can we overhaul the system? This is a good question. We may not, Ellis and I and you may not have the answer to that question, but take a close look at that question. If people begin to see their responsibilities as very serious, and if you take it very seriously, and if they know that they have a responsibility to the citizenry, to the public, to the people who will either support them or reject them. Once they see the need to make sure those people are protected and peace and tranquility in the society, I believe this is the place. But if they don't see themselves as responsible and accountable to the people. Then what we see now will continue, right? Because they don't feel they're obligated to the citizenry. They don't feel that they can be accountable for the citizenry. They feel that they can always come down on the citizenry when they question their authority and mistakes. Once that pattern keeps continuing, my brothers, the situation we have in our country will continue. That's my take on it. I don't know about you, Alex. Joe.
No, I agree. Look, there's a pervasive lack of trust in the entire criminal justice system. There's a lack of trust. Whether it's in the courts, whether it's in our law enforcement, I mean, it cuts across every sector of the criminal justice system. Look, I think there was a survey by I think it was the African Center for Strategic Study that was conducted among Liberians. I think it was in about 2 years ago. It found that trust in the police was extremely low. Only 2% of Liberians, 2% of Liberians found out that the police were not corrupt. 2%. On the contrary, 44% believe that all the police are corrupt. Mind you, it goes beyond, just extorting money. I mean, people report police officers, engaged in all kinds of, criminal behavior. Yes, they extort money, if they want to do an investigation, and they say, oh, they got logistics. We got to pay them money to register complaint, to go to the crime scene. If they want to go over to the crime scene, we got to pay them money. And I say this from experience. My cousin's wife was brutally murdered in 2018 in her home. On her birthday, her neck was almost severed from her head. To this date, the investigation has gone cold. We've heard nothing. But in the immediate aftermath of her death, this man who was so traumatized, who was mourning the loss of his wife, had to be, facilitating, money for people to go to crime scene, and going back and forth. I thought that was just adding insult to injury. And this is not unique to him. This is something that is pervasive in the criminal justice system in the country. Mm-hmm. We talked about trust. Look, if the citizenry don't have trust in the police, that is bad. Because you need the support and partnership of the citizenry to apprehend criminals. How will folks go and give you tips if they don't trust you? If my relative died and I don't even trust that the police is able to investigate this incident and give me closure, then I'm open to taking the law into my own hands. So trust is so important in the criminal justice system. It is so important in Liberians, because that's the difference in me saying, look, the police have done this investigation. How many times have the police done an investigation and issue a release, and everybody say, we don't believe it. We don't believe the report because we don't trust the police. So even if they're well-intentioned, we don't trust them because they have a history. So it is so important that the police is able to regain the trust of the population. And I don't know how that happens. Maybe one way, and I don't know, it's been suggested in the past, can the civil society organizations get together and just nominate a slate of candidates as inspector general of the police and present those candidates to the president and say, look, Mr. President, here are our nominees. Can you just select from these nominees this person you want to be police director? So that way, that person, has the buy-in of the civil society groups. That person doesn't come into a job with some perception of being biased, or some perception of being a partisan inspector general. That could be one way, but I think we are far away from that. And as long as there's this distrust between the population and the police, it makes it harder for them to do their work. It makes it harder for the public to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah, and there are some people who are listening right now who say, well, it's the same problem in our various communities or communities in the United States where the police are still experiencing the whole thing about mistrust due to racial preference or prejudice. I know it is different from our country. You don't find that racial prejudice there, but you find in efficiency, you also find it in the United States, United States Department as well.
Can I respond to that a little bit, Alex?
Yes.
And so someone in trying to respond to our press release made it seem analogy. As a matter of fact, they made the analogy between Liberia and Minnesota, where I happen to live. And the point was, well, there are murders in Minnesota as well, and not all murderers get arrested. I quite agree. I couldn't agree more. But my point is, let's consider the murder in Minnesota in proportion to the population in Minnesota, and the murder in Liberia in proportion to the population in Liberia. The two are not the same. Also, the point I made to them also was that in Minnesota, as of 2019, there was a 67% clearance rate. Clearance rate indicates the number of solved murder cases. So of all the murder that have happened, that's a 67% clearance rate. So yes, the police will not have a 100% success rate when it comes to apprehending all murderers and bringing them to trial and convicting them. No. But tell me, what is the percentage of solved murder cases in Liberia? I need to know. I need to know how many of these murder cases have been solved and brought to a logical conclusion. Insignificant at best. So that is the distinction we try to make. It is not apples to apples. They are completely different.
Okay, yes, completely different geographical location.
Yes.
And different, preferences when it comes to race.
I might add too, I live here in Minnesota though, and I go to bed peacefully. I don't go to bed at 6 o'clock because I'm afraid that a criminal will come to my house and no. I go to bed whenever I want to go to bed. I get up whenever I want to get up. I'm saying our people have to enjoy that same level of freedom. Let people feel so protected in their homes at night. Yeah, crimes will happen. People will get killed. But those should be the exception and not the rule. Let people feel so protected in their homes at night, or they can come out and go home whenever they want to go home. That should be the case in every society. Unfortunately, that is not the prevailing circumstance in our country right now.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, and it is our hope and prayer that the governing authorities will see the need to listen more to the Liberian population regarding these. I'm not saying they are working. I believe they might not have the resources or the best resources, but I believe once they do that work with the right spirit and the right mindset, there will be some results that Liberian people can reckon with. Just lastly here, we don't have much time in 2 minutes. Now, you talk about the problem, you talk about everything that is going wrong. Okay, you
Alex,
leave
there's
that
some feedback. There's some feedback from you, Alex. There's some
to the
feedback.
side.
There's some
General,
feedback.
can
You
you
got
have
double voice.
any
I don't know where
background?
it's coming from. When you talk, I'm hearing two voices as you talk. Check the system and see there's some feedback as you talk. I don't think it's from your end.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that feedback is coming from. Is it from your side, President Linton?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay,
achieved anything since.
okay.
When your voice is clear, Mrs. voice is clear is when you're talking. When I'm talking, that's when I hear the feedback. Yeah, I don't know.
Hello, can you hear the feedback?
Yeah, I can stay there. I don't know. But anyway, let's go ahead. I'm hearing it. When you speak in that screen, that's where it comes from. I don't know. I'm
Okay,
checking
I'm
my
not
system.
sure. I'm
Anyway,
not
go
sure
ahead. Go
why.
ahead, Alex.
Anyway, what I was saying is that in 2 minutes, okay, because we're running out of time here, we have seen all the things that are going wrong, and we can, highlight all of that. And it is a good thing that, yes, we need to have an effective police force with good leadership, and we all want that. We want the Justice Ministry to have leaders that will, investigate all, will work hard to bring about closure in what is going on, or to lay to rest the security concern of citizens. Now, what can you give as an insight, or let's say a proposition in substance, that what can make the justice system work better to provide security to the Liberian people?
Well, I think thanks again. Let me first commend the police for the recent arrest of the suspect in Mr. Todman's murder. We are looking forward to others being arrested for the other deaths that have occurred in the country. And we also want to add too that we understand these are high-profile people, and there's an urgency to go after those involved in their death. But remind the police that there are a lot of other people who don't have such name recognition who have been killed in the country. And we hope that they can exert similar speed and similar energy in following through and bringing those people to book as well. So I just wanted to make that point, because sometimes the ordinary people get buried under the headlines, and that much is done to bring the perpetrators of their murder to death as well. I mentioned, the engagement or the involvement of the civil society organizations. I think there need to be a partnership between the Liberian government, international organizations, and civil society organizations to build a trust in the system. All sides have to work together. Again, I can't emphasize enough how the public need to trust the security sector. They need to trust the criminal justice system. I should be able to go to the court and feel assured that it doesn't matter who I carry to court, whether it is a minister or a senator, that I will get fair and equal justice. I
And
don't
just
think that.
and just quickly, President Mason, for the Liberian people to trust right now is where we are right now. This trust is already there. Now, we can say we want to muster the effort for all civil groups to come together and see what can be done. That's good. And the details of that need to be, follow up. However, do you agree with some of those who are saying that it is time for community vigilante? That is, people should protect themselves. There should be open carry. The government should legislate some sort of law that people can have their own gun, their own protection, because it seems like the government does not have all of the resources to provide security and safety. Do you agree? Do you agree with
No,
that?
I don't. We've seen in our country what vigilante justice is. There's been occasions where people, someone can get here, roll, everybody run behind you, and you have no chance to defend yourself. Before you know it, everybody gathered around you and beat you to death. There's been a number of occasions where people have been killed just because someone shout, roll, yeah, or this person did this to me. Jungle justice, vigilante justice is not the right way to go. We need to respect the criminal justice system as established in our country. People have a right to a fair trial. Even the accused have a right to a fair trial, because not everybody who's accused of a crime is guilty. So no, I don't agree at all I think we need to ensure that the police are more effective. The police has to have the logistical support, and I agree. They lack a lot of support. They are not paid well. They need to be paid well. And this call for the government to ensure that the economy is better. When the economy is better, there will be more logistics. The security sector will be paid better. There will be less incentive for criminals to go out there and rob people because they got nothing to live off. So all those things need to be in place. And so I completely disagree with vigilante justice. I think there's a partnership. The police is trying to engage the community in such a partnership. I think the previous police bosses did that. Inspector Sudo should do that if it's not, and that's the way they should go. No, I completely disagree.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
well,
this is
this
how we'll
is
wrap
how
it
we'll
up.
wrap it up.
We'd like to
We'd like
thank you
to
so
thank you
much
so much
for being
for
part of
being
our
part of our
broadcast, our
broadcast, our
podcast
podcast
today.
today.
We
We
appreciate your
appreciate your
presence and
presence and
you
you
highlight a number
highlight
of
a number
things
of
that
things
I
that I
believe that
believe
we
that
all
we
can
all can
recently
recently
look at
look at
and
and
see how
see
we
how
can
we can
fill in our
fill in our
missing
missing
puzzle
puzzle
of our
of our
justice system.
justice system.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Brother
much, Dr.
Davidson.
Davidson.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank you for
coming.
coming.
And this is how we end our broadcast for today, Gracious Hopes podcast. And we'll be back here next week, Saturday, the same time, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and 9 p.m. GMT. Reverend Deddeh, and a
Well, we want to
final
bless,
word.
yeah, we want to
Word.
bless God for today. I hope we can close with prayer. I mean, committing all these things into the hands of God. You're right. From the onset, we have to have the heart of God. Not all of us will have, but if we strive towards that, God's Spirit will lead us in the right direction so that we begin to love one another. Because that's why the two commandments are love God with everything you have and love your neighbor as yourself. When once these two commandments are together, all of what we're talking about today will be non-existent. But it's in the absence of these two adherence to these two commands that we have the situation that are prevailing in our country today. We just want to make sure that we respect, and I agree with Mason. We should be careful with vigilante groups. During the war, right after the Civil War, we had community watch teams, and they took care of the community. But when you describe them as vigilante, that description, it could mean well, but the exercise of that can create problem in the community. Except people really see and know the reason why they have those groups. So again, I want to thank God for our discussion, and we pray, Alex, that God will really visit our leaders and lead those who are in authority to make the right decisions and go the right path, so that people who are under the protection will feel safe. And Joe declared again, in Minnesota, he goes home when he wants to go home. But people are go home 6 o'clock in the evening because they are fearful of what's happening. And after press statement was clear, they stated in the statement that they acknowledged that not all crimes are solved. And we don't think other crimes in Liberia will be solved, but when the police are saying, uh, working towards resolving these crimes, then people's safety will be lifted up, and they will begin to take the police very seriously. So that's just what it is, brother. We love our country, but we cannot speak out when things not going the way they're supposed to go.
Exactly, and we are hoping that this platform will always create the awareness, so that we all can know where we are as a country. And we will be closing here, but just before we close here, in the book of First Timothy chapter 2, starting with verse 1. But before then, verse 2 starts with verse 1. It said, therefore, so that is a conclusion before the previous chapter 1, verse 18, verse 19 and 20. And Paul enumerates the suffering that he went through, and he was exhorting this, or encouraging Timothy, the young pastor, to have faith and a good conscience, which some having rejected concerning the faith. So in the midst of our chaos or trials and tribulation in our country, as believers in Christ, we must always have good conscience toward all people. Look at verse 1 in chapter 2 of First Timothy. Therefore, I exhort, which means I encourage, first of all, that all supplications, which means praying to God on your need and begging God, so that's supplication, prayers, intersections, that is to intercede for other people, and giving of thanks be made for who? For all men, for kings. In our days will be for presidents, okay? For all kings and all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and reverence. So, therefore, we are to pray for all those who are in authority, the president of our country, the executive branch, the entire legislative branch, as well as the judiciary, which, of course, we focus our attention on today. We know that they are human beings, that they are charged with the constitutional mandate to protect the Liberian people and do everything in their power. They cannot be everywhere at the same time because they are not omniscient or omnipresent like God. We all have limitations, but it's our prayer that they will do their best, that the Lord will give them the wisdom to carry on. We love our country and we hope that the principle of liberty, justice for all, will reign in our land. And this is how we end our program here today. And President Joe Mason was our special guest. Reverend Suah Deddeh will be back here. And in fact, tomorrow, Sunday, I will be back here in the afternoon around 3 p.m. Central Time. And you will also be here at 5 p.m. Eastern Time with your Bible study. And you can check out Reverend Suah Deddeh's new page on Facebook, Grace Sufficient Ministry. Search for that in the engine and follow and like. And of course, you'll be blessed.
We're still working on it, though. We're still
Yes,
trying
we're
to
still
improve it.
working on it. We are still working on it. Thank you so much. And hey, may you all have a blessed weekend. Thank you for all the comments. And from our end, we'd like to say, hey, may you be blessed. Have a great weekend.